I was welcomed here by Emerson and Pete or Oriana, and I have all these drinks, and I'm just like living the dream. Also, I wore a shirt that has been in my closet for 5 or 6 years, and I've literally never worn it before, so I feel like I'm cosplaying, like being a person who wears this shirt. So you don't know me, so you're like, yeah, she just wore like a regular white shirt. And meanwhile, I'm like, that's all I'm doing is wearing this shirt. Okay, I'll just read. I'm sorry, I'm like overexcited and I drank too much coffee. Okay, this is the prologue. This is my book sandwich.
That's funny.
Pulling myself together. Okay. Picture this, a shorelined peninsula jutting into the Atlantic Ocean. Zoom in a little closer. It's a Cape Cod beach town. It's midsummer. The narrow highway is thick with lobster dinners and mini golf windmills and inflatable bagel pool floats. But turn off the main drag in either direction and find yourself quickly at the sea. Sandy cliffs and windswept grasses, tumbling pink roses and vast blue skies, and a tide line hemmed with stones and mussels and bright green ruffles of seaweed. Beneath the waves, shivers of great white sharks, stuffed to the gills, or so one imagines, with surfers. In the passenger seat of one slightly rusting silver Subaru station wagon, a woman in her 50s. She is halfway in age between her young adult children and her elderly parents. She is long married to a beautiful man who understands between 20 and 65% of everything she says. They've been coming here for so many years that there's a watercolor wash over all of it now. Everything hard has been smeared out into pleasant pastel memories of taffy, clam strips, and beach combing, sunglasses and sunscreen, and sandy feet pressed against her thighs and stomach, little children running across the sand with their little pails, her own parents laughing in their beach chairs, shrinking inside their clothes as the years pass, grief right in the periphery like a light flashing just out of view. The woman and her husband have fetched the grown children from the train station. They're headed to the small house they rent for this 1 week every year. She's so happy to have the kids with her that she doesn't know what to do with herself besides crane around to look at them and smile. It's the one moment of the trip when she won't complain about the traffic. And we are put on earth a little space that we may learn to bear the beams of love, she says, unprompted. Is that a poem, her 20-year-old daughter asks? It is. Who, the daughter asks? William Blake. What's it called? The woman grimaces. I think it might be called The Little Black Boy. Ugh, Mom. I know. I think it's okay. I seriously doubt it's okay. I think he was an abolitionist. One of the abolitionists who enslaved people. That's a good question, the mother says. Is it beams like wood, the daughter asks, or beams like light in your eyes? Oh my God, I only know this from your wedding invitation.
I thought it was familiar.
I'm sorry I laughed and got a crick in my neck. We're going to have to end early. Is it beams like wood, the daughter asks, or beams like light in your eyes? I don't know. She has always pictured it both ways, squinting against the unbearable lightness of loving while simultaneously crouched under the heavy cross of it. It's so crushingly beautiful being human, the mother sighs, and the daughter rolls her eyes and says, but also so terrible and ridiculous. And maybe it's all three. Okay, I'm going to read some more sections. Unless you have a lot of questions, I'll just mostly read. Mm-hmm. Still living the dream with my probiotic soda. Okay. So that the protagonist, the rest of it's in first person, and it's told by Rocky. That's the mother. She's married to someone named Nick. Her kids are Jamie and Willa, and Maya is Jamie's girlfriend. Nick, Jamie, and Maya are out in the waves with their boogie boards. From the waterline where I'm standing alone, I can see them laughing. I can also see the occasional black seal head pop up like a dog's, pop down again. I scan constantly for shark fins, or try to, despite my sunglasses prescription being from the Cretaceous period. The fall Jamie was 4 and Willa was not yet 1, I asked Nick to drive me out to the beach. It was September, and we booked a single night at a motel with money we didn't have. Just drop me off, okay? I'd said to him, can you just drop me at the beach and take the kids to get ice cream or something? Come back for me in an hour. Of course, he'd said. He kissed me nervously before I got out of the car. He was terrified of me then. I swam and swam, clambered up to shore reluctantly, and only when I couldn't feel my legs anymore. The sky was the impossible blue of a blue crayon. You good? Willa has come down to stand beside me, and she slings a lightly tattooed arm around my shoulders. Totally, I say, and she peers into my face, dabs a tear away with her thumb. Are you crying because your bush has grown down to your knees? I look down and laugh, and decide to keep to myself the fact that my bush is actually shrinking now, of all ironic horrors. Oh my God, wait, she says, is that where the word bushy comes from? I think it's the other way around, I say. Oh, right, she nods. Are you mad at Dad about something? Not especially, I say. And she says, good, and bends down to pluck up a shell. You really don't need to worry about me, I say. And she says, agree to disagree. Do you want to come up and eat your lunch under the umbrella with me? I do. Despite the many cheerful photographs suggesting otherwise, I did not love lunch on the beach when the kids were little. They were so committed to getting sand in the cooler, sand in the chip bag, sand in the cherry bag, the cookies, the pretzels. They dropped their sandwiches into the sand, spilled my iced tea into the sand, poured sand over their own sweaty heads for no reason, and cried. They stuffed their sandy baby fingers into my nostrils. They groped me with their sandy palms. They tracked sand over the towels and through my psyche. All I wanted was 2 unsandy seconds to swallow their peanut butter and jelly crusts and call it a meal. Now, though, I love lunch on the beach so much that I laugh out loud. What is it, weirdo? Willa says, and I shake my head, shrug, just happy. You're really living your best life, Mom, Willa says, and I really might be. I've stuffed an enormous handful of potato chips into my sandwich, and I'm sitting cross-legged on one of our old striped beach towels, tearing off huge bites and drinking deeply from a can of beer. I understand now that if I sat out here completely naked, nobody would even notice me, except Nick, who would probably say a friendly "rawr" before asking me to pass him the grapes. I really don't care about my cellulite anymore, I say. That's smart, Willa says. I mean, from an evolutionary standpoint, that cellulite is probably saving your life. She takes a bite of her sandwich and keeps talking, oil from the peppers gleaming on her lips. Think about it, old women. What are they even good for? None taken, I say, and she laughs, chews thoughtfully. You're not making babies, so nobody needs to think you're hot. But maybe you're useful. If you can take care of other people's babies, keep them alive long enough to reproduce, so you're still genetically important. A piece of mozzarella slides out of her sandwich onto the sand, and she picks it up, pours seltzer over it, pops the rinsed cheese in her mouth. And the cellulite, I ask? Willa holds up a finger, finishes chewing, swallows, and drains her can. You need the cellulite as an energy reserve in case the patriarchs decide you're ugly and pointless and stop feeding you. She shrugs. That's sensible. How good is your sandwich, I ask smugly. I notoriously troll for compliments. Oh my God, so good, she says. Does it slap, I ask? And she looks at me levelly, says, I'm not sure it slaps. Say it slaps, I say, and she says, it slaps. You want the really gross, let me look at you. You want the gross menopause content? Ooh,
Yeah.
we got kind of a mixed crowd.
Most of us will get it.
Maybe no, hang on.
The other people understand 25 to 50% of it.
So true. Hang on, let me just look around. I'm not sure what I'm going to read. to read this, and then I'm going to read this. Excuse me, I'm sorting myself out. Jamie was 4 then, and Willa was not yet 1. We'd moved from Boston to Western Massachusetts earlier that year, and there wasn't a gynecologist I knew. When we got home from the Cape, I picked one on a friend's tepid recommendation. He's kind of a douche, but he did okay delivering my babies. Sorry, she said, that's all I got. That is like how everyone recommends doctors to me, by the way. Where you're like, do you have a recommendation? And they're like, yeah. Oh, I mean, he's like a total asshole. Like, that's who I go to. And then you're like, okay. I lay bottomless on the table in my t-shirt and socks, trying to feel like an actual person. The doctor stood over me, looked down at me. The ultrasound will tell us how far along you are now, he said. Okay, I said. I have a baby at home, I didn't say. Can I just close my eyes for a minute? He probed me roughly with a lubricated wand, like he'd zipped down in a spaceship to learn about female earthlings and their proclivities. On the screen, grainy footage zipped past in black and white, and then something, a little black puddle. There, he said. The puddle winked closed, winked open, and he adjusted the probe. That's the gestational sac, and here we go. He shifted the probe again, and a tiny dot pulsed on the screen. See that flutter? We've got a heartbeat, Mom. Mom. Jesus. I cried a little. He measured something, said 6 weeks. I love him so much, Nick said, pretend boo-hooing when I handed him the printout of the inky blot. He was quoting a Coen Brothers movie. Can you please not? I said. Sorry, he said. He wrapped his arms around me. It's so exciting, he said, but I wasn't convinced either that it was exciting or that he was excited. I like it's... He looked at the printout, pointed. Whatever this is. I think that's lint, I said, and brushed it off. Oh, he said, still. We heard Willa waking up from her nap, crying out to be nursed. I went to her where she lay on her futon. When she saw me, her face broke all the way open into a smile. She flipped over onto her stomach and used my sweatpants to pull herself to standing. I reached down to scoop her up, and she touched my face with one fat finger. Pure wonder, pure joy. Mama. It was a month later that I begged Nick to drive me back to the ocean. September. Please, I said, one night on the Cape, I just need to swim. Of course, he said, anything you want. I bled the baby away into the brine. There were no sharks that I could see. I wanted obliteration, but also I wanted life. I wanted to keep the life I had. Okay, I'm not going to end on that sad little note. Okay, then the parents come. This is Rocky's parents. Have any of you read this? Okay, a couple of you. Her mom is British, and her dad is a New York Jew. I know this combination of people very well. Oh no, my mother says. She points to the screen door against which Chicken the cat is pressing himself so desperately that you expect his head to push through like a sieved egg. It's getting a bit sunny anyway, she says, gathering up the breakfast dishes. I'm going to go in and think about putting on my bathing suit. Give that poor pussycat a little attention. The kids are up, scattered around and quietly eating bowls of colorful cereal. I tear off 7 pieces of tinfoil and start making my sandwich inquiries. Who wants what, I say? There's turkey, ham, Swiss, American, all the extras, mustard, mayo, pickles, pickled peppers, lettuce, tomato cukes. I'm happy to make tuna. There's hummus, coleslaw. There's actually a little leftover striper. Is there more to Della? My dad asks. There's not, I say. Huh, he says. Is there salami? I thought you didn't eat salami because of the garlic, I say, and he shrugs, says, sometimes I do. Today I would have. Mort, my mother says, don't be a pain. There's turkey, ham, and cheese. No condiments, my dad says. I am reminded of waitressing, of the kind of large table where every single person, one after the other, asks you to list all the salad dressings. Italian, light Italian, Thousand Island, ranch, blue cheese, balsamic vinaigrette, honey mustard vinaigrette. Wait, what are they again? Is there Catalina French? I met Nick at that job. Tell me the salad dressings, he whispered to me in bed. That's right, no condiments, Dad, I say now. And he looks at me, says, you're kidding. Okay, sorry I'm old. It's not a crime to be deaf. I want the usual condiments, just regular ones, nothing hokey. Okay, I say. I don't need my lunch festooned with figs and seeds, my dad continues. And I say, Dad, I got it. Okay, he says, I'm just trying to make myself clear. Thank you, I say, because I was maybe going to festoon your lunch with figs and seeds. Testy, he observes, which is true. Is this somebody's hairband? My mother says, and I turn around when I hear Willa laughing. Is that your hairband, Mom? Willa says to me, pointing, and I can see that what my mom is holding is this silky sliver of a mauve thong. This is a true story. Oh, Mom, I say, I think that's probably Maya's. I think it might actually be underpants. It couldn't possibly be underpants, my mother says, turning it over in her hands to look closer. Perhaps it's a headband. I'll just leave it here. She puts it on the table, and Willa actually chokes with laughter and goes upstairs. I make lunch while everybody waits for a turn to use the bathroom. Once the cooler is packed up, I pull on my swimsuit and rub white sunscreen on my white arms and white legs. I have a special little tube I use for my face on account of my wrinkles and acne. Willa picks it up and reads the label. This is not even mineral sunscreen, she says. It's full of all the toxins you tell us not to use. You are such a hypocrite. I sigh. I make an exception. I just use a little. Plus, it makes my skin look really good. Yeah, it makes your skin look really good because it's makeup. It's not makeup, I say. It's tinted sunscreen. Look, SPF 50. Oh, sorry, Mom, but no. It says here it's foundation. Oh, my God. No wonder it makes my skin look good. I take the tube out of her hands. It is foundation. Why am I so humiliated? Because you like to think you're not the kind of person who wears makeup, Willa says. It ruins the idea you have about yourself. That's exactly why, I say sadly. I have had many ideas about myself, and many of them have been ruined. I do not share this thought with my daughter. Thanks. Anyone have any?
I'm going to ask a question that you've answered.
She's a plant, by the way.
But you answered this about we all want impossible things, but with this new book, because there are, as you said, you know some of the, at least types in it really well, did you have, like you told the most hilarious story about, in We Want Impossible Things about how you like should have like changed the characteristic of Ellie's brother. Like,
Yeah.
and he was like, so with this book, anyone who's followed you for a long time, right, would like, no, okay, that might be similar to your mom and your dad and maybe Birdie and, you know, just, so I guess I'm curious maybe how your, you know, your people feel. Like, do they feel psyched? Do they feel like it's hilarious?
You'll be surprised to hear there's not a single answer to that question. Yeah, there are multiple answers. One thing I did with this book, so the last book I kept everyone's names the same as real life until I drafted it, and then in a panic I did like a find change in the Word document and changed everybody's names not super well. And people complained a lot about the names in that book because they all started with the letter J. This book, I changed everyone's names from the get-go, like a regular person. And Birdie, my daughter, who's like she's an amazing reader, and she read it. She was the first person to read it. And she goes, Mom, you named the son Benji. And I was like, yeah. She was like, yeah, that's Ben's name. And I was like, oh yeah, it's really similar. And she was like, it's not really similar, it's the same name. So I changed that. The kids are happy, they're funny. They were just like, oh my God, they're us, but like having way more sex than we actually have in real life, which they got a huge kick out of and felt like they just had more game in general because of that.
Had you, like, it feels like you wrote these books in a short, right? Like some authors labor for years.
Yeah, although it's 2 years, like you write a book and then
Right.
it's 2 years before it comes out. So it
Okay.
seems more compressed than it is
Yeah.
in real life.
So did you wait till We All Want Impossible Things was published to start this? You had
No, it was
already
done.
started.
It was
Okay.
actually done by the time that book came out.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And did they, like, in your process of crafting the books, did you have like a different, you know what I mean, I'm not a writer, so I don't really know how to ask this question, but like, did those feel like different adventures in noveling or whatever you'd call that?
I was a teeny bit less convinced the second time that I didn't know how to write a novel. The first time I read and reread compulsively this book called Take Off Your Pants or Put On Your Pants. I can't remember which it's called. Does anyone write? If you write, you might know this book. It's like either about plotting or not plotting. I can't remember what it's called or what it's about or what the main point of it is. Nonetheless, I like stuck Post-its over it because I was like, even though I read 400 million novels, I suddenly was like, I don't know how to write a novel. And then I read a book that was like the narrative arc and each chapter and the anti-hero comes onto the scene, and I was so like panic stricken by this book, even though I couldn't stop looking at it and being like, do I need all these things? Like, do you need an anti-hero? Will the anti-hero emerge naturally if you don't think about it? I don't really know. Like, is there an anti-hero in this book, and is it menopause? Like, and should it be an actual character who shows up in like a cape and murders everybody? Like, I don't really know. But then the second time I did read the book again really compulsively, How to Write a Novel and Take Off Your Pants and Put On Your Pants, whatever. I think it's Take Off Your Pants, but it might be Put On Your Pants. There's something called pantsing, which is where you fly by the seat of your pants, which means you don't make an outline. And then there's, whatever it is. I did one of the things that you either are or not supposed to do. So the second time I felt a little less nervous, but also really like super anxious and a little like out of my depth. Like part of why they're on vacation is that I can't manage a bigger cast of characters than the people. You know, on vacation it's so artificial, right? Nobody goes to work. There aren't other people like friends. It's just this very small palette. Anytime you see a movie or a book that's just like 6 people in a house, that's why they did it. It's so much easier. It's so hard to manage like a bazillion characters. Hence the small condo. Please.
This is also this is like a micro processing question. Do you write in the morning? Do you write a certain number of words? How do you manage the day? Like, do you write straight onto a computer? Are you writing by hand?
I write straight onto a computer. I only write in the morning because caffeine. I have like, I don't know, like 2 good writing hours a day maybe. And then the rest, writing, it's like if you have a writing career,
Yeah, there's so much else.
it's like in the pie chart, there's like a tiny sliver that's the writing and the rest is like hustle and pitching and editing and pimping yourself out in various ways and doing all the other horrible writing work that you've agreed to do to pay all your bills. Anything you've read in your alumni magazine in the last 10 years, I wrote it. I'm just telling you. Any article, it doesn't matter what school you went to, I wrote it. Kidney donation, you went to Brown, I wrote that. Like, Con College, the guy who did that podcast about weird food, that was me. Like, all of the just crap writing jobs, then that can happen in the afternoon. Nobody here's an editor, by the way. I wouldn't like just lead with that. But you asked, and I give myself a sticker for every 500 words I write. This is a true story. I have a sticker chart that I administer for myself. I buy the stickers, and I give them to myself. If that's not a really sad story, you guys are heartless. I'm like, ooh, I got a sticker. And then I pick it from the sheet of stickers I have bought and put it on my sticker chart for 500 words. Like a kid learning to use the potty. Only that kid's giving themselves stickers for learning to use the potty. And then if I don't write, I can write 480 words, I don't get a sticker for that. So that weirdly will keep me in my chair for 20 more words. It's so weird and twisted, and I don't know what it is.
And do you like write the whole first draft, or do you each day review what you've written the day before?
That's deadly. Are you a writer?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hemingway did that. I never could figure out.
I think if you do that, you never move forward in your story, and the first chapter is really good. And thank God, because that's all there is, you know? And then it's a short story. And then you get it published maybe, because it's that good, because you spent years revising it. I have a friend, Alexander Chi, who's a writer, and his advice, which I love, I don't do this, but I would do it if I got stuck. He opens a blank page every day. He does not even work into the same document, because he doesn't want to be sucked into the past of yesterday. Right?
Yeah,
Isn't that kind of good advice?
Yeah.
I feel like I remember when you wrote your children's book, you had a partner who held you to account for your...
Yes. So I
certain
wrote
amount
a
of
kids
pages.
novel first, and I had a accountability partner who was KJ Dell'Antonia, who is kind of local-ish. She and I, this was our minor accountability. We each had to write 500 words of our fiction projects. So this could not be 500 words about the Princeton guy who started a podcast. This had to be 500 discretionary words on our like dream project a week. Okay, that's not a ton of writing. If you didn't do it, sorry if this offends your political sensibilities. If you didn't do it, the other person would donate $10 to the Trump campaign, and you had to show that you had done it. Or money got donated to the Trump campaign in your name. And I never didn't write because that was really good incentive for me. And it turns out 500 words a week, give it to me every hour for it. Like over time, that's a book. It was a long time. It doesn't happen quickly, but that I love that. Like any accountability is so good. Just accountability. That's why people do MFA programs, right? Because you have deadlines and people read your stuff. Like you actually have to write it. I mean, I don't know. I'm imagining.
I like all this stuff because it strips away like the romance of the writer, and it's just getting work done.
Yeah.
Like-
Oh, yes. Well, I'll tell you a story about getting the work done. Did I interrupt? Were you going to say more?
No, that was it.
There's a study. This is literally a study that came out, and then we'll be done. Sorry. Now I'm just keeping you for no reason. But there was a study that came out, a published study. These were sociologists who studied work habits, and they tracked people who were writing music, and they studied them for a couple of years. And their conclusion was the more time people spent writing music, the more music got written. Okay, let that sink in. Like, how great is that as the conclusion of a study? But it's like awful to hear because you're like, I suspected that was true. Like, I had a sneaking suspicion that output correlated with time spent. Anyway, it's true. It was proven that if you spend more time doing something, you'll do more of it. Whoop. Yeah?
So you said when that one came out, you already had this one. Does that mean there's maybe another one?
Thanks. It doesn't mean there's another one done. It means there's like another one kicking around. I just bought the stickers. I'm not even kidding. I literally did. I bought the nicest stickers in the hopes that this would happen. So we'll see. You know, it's going to be a tough little fall, I'm thinking, we got coming up here, but we'll see what happens. All right. You guys, thank you so much for coming out on a Saturday morning. should I sign books?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I stay here?
You can go wherever.
Do you have a Sharpie for me? Sorry.